Imagine a life where every obstacle becomes a stepping stone, where failure transforms into your greatest teacher, and where your unwavering determination propels you toward extraordinary success. This is not fantasy. This is the timeless wisdom captured in one of history's most powerful self-improvement classics, a book that has transformed millions of lives across generations, a philosophy so profound that it continues to revolutionize how people think about potential, possibility, and the unlimited capacity within each human being to rise above circumstances and achieve greatness. In the closing decades of the 19th century, a young man named Orison Swett Marden sat among the ashes of his destroyed hotel, financially ruined, physically exhausted, and seemingly defeated. Everything he had worked for lay in ruins around him, his investments gone, his business destroyed, his future uncertain. Yet in that moment of despair, in that dark night of the soul that has visited so many great achievers before their breakthrough, he made a choice that would not only rebuild his own life but would inspire countless others to rise above their circumstances. He decided to write a book about success, about the indomitable human spirit, about pushing to the front no matter what obstacles life places in your path. What emerged from his pen, written often late into the night after exhausting days of rebuilding his life, was more than just a book. It was a manifesto for anyone who has ever dreamed of something greater, who has faced setbacks and wondered if they should give up, who has looked at successful people and asked themselves what makes the difference between those who achieve their dreams and those who don't. The central message is beautifully simple yet profoundly transformative. Success is not reserved for the naturally talented, the well-connected, or the fortunate. Success belongs to those who refuse to quit, who push forward when others retreat, who maintain their vision when circumstances scream defeat, who believe in themselves when the world doubts them, who work while others sleep, who persist when others abandon their dreams. This philosophy challenges everything we've been taught about limitations, about knowing our place, about accepting less than we desire, about settling for comfortable mediocrity instead of reaching for uncomfortable excellence. It declares with absolute certainty that within each person lies dormant potential waiting to be awakened, that character and determination matter more than circumstances, that the quality of persistence separates temporary defeat from ultimate victory, and that anyone, regardless of starting point, can achieve remarkable success through application of timeless principles. Throughout history, the principle of pushing to the front has manifested in countless lives across every field of human endeavor. Consider the young Abraham Lincoln, born in a log cabin to illiterate parents in one of the poorest regions of early America, with less than a year of formal education, facing obstacles that would have convinced most people that great achievement was impossible for someone of his background. Yet through relentless self-improvement and unwavering determination, through reading every book he could borrow, through studying law on his own, through developing his mind and character despite having every excuse to remain ignorant and limited, he became one of America's greatest presidents and one of history's most admired leaders. His journey wasn't smooth or easy. He failed in business multiple times. He lost elections repeatedly. He faced ridicule and opposition from those who thought a backwoods lawyer had no business pursuing high office. He endured personal tragedies that would have broken many men, but he never stopped pushing forward, never abandoned his vision, never let circumstances define his destiny. Or think of the struggling inventor Thomas Edison, who faced thousands of failures while developing the light bulb, investing years of his life and enormous resources into experiments that didn't work, facing skepticism from experts who thought his goal was impossible, dealing with financial pressures and the constant temptation to give up and pursue easier paths. Yet he refused to see these attempts as defeats, instead viewing each experiment as one step closer to success. Each failure is valuable information about what didn't work. Each setback is refinement of his approach. When asked about his many failures, he famously responded that he hadn't failed. He had simply found 10,000 ways that didn't work, demonstrating a mindset that reframes setbacks in ways that empower rather than defeat. This mindset, this refusal to accept defeat, this commitment to pushing forward regardless of setbacks, this ability to maintain vision and determination despite opposition and difficulty, represents the core principle that transforms ordinary individuals into extraordinary achievers. The foundation of pushing to the front begins with a fundamental shift in how we view ourselves and our potential, a transformation in self-perception that precedes transformation in circumstances. Most people live far below their capabilities, not because they lack ability or opportunity, but because they've accepted limiting beliefs about what's possible for them, beliefs installed by society, by well-meaning but limited advisors, by early failures misinterpreted as evidence of inadequacy, by comparison with others that left them feeling inferior. Society, well-meaning parents, teachers, and friends often inadvertently program us with limitations, telling us what we can't do, what isn't realistic for someone like us, what we should settle for given our circumstances, what dreams we should abandon in favor of more practical pursuits. These messages accumulate over years, building invisible barriers that constrain our aspirations and actions more effectively than any external obstacle ever could. Breaking free requires a conscious decision to reject these limitations, to recognize that the opinions of others, however well-intentioned, don't determine our destiny or define our potential. It requires understanding that our current circumstances, no matter how challenging or discouraging, represent only our starting point, not our final destination, not a prediction of where we'll end up if we apply the right principles with sufficient determination. The cultivation of an unshakable belief in yourself stands as the first essential element, the foundation upon which all other success principles rest. This isn't about arrogance or ignoring reality or pretending you have abilities you don't possess. It's about recognizing the profound truth that human potential far exceeds what most people demonstrate, that the gap between what you've achieved and what you're capable of achieving is enormous, that dormant within you are abilities and strengths you haven't yet discovered or developed. History repeatedly shows individuals accomplishing what experts declared impossible, overcoming obstacles that seemed insurmountable to everyone including themselves, achieving goals that others dismissed as unrealistic fantasies, proving that the limits we accept are usually far more constraining than the limits that actually exist. These achievers weren't superhuman. They didn't possess magical abilities unavailable to others. They simply refused to accept the limitations that others tried to impose on them. They believed in themselves when no one else did. They maintained faith in their eventual success despite current evidence suggesting failure. They understood that belief precedes achievement, that you must first see yourself succeeding internally before you can manifest that success externally, that your self-concept determines your actions which determine your results. This self-belief doesn't require evidence. In fact, it often flies in the face of current evidence. But it provides the fuel that keeps you moving forward when logical analysis suggests giving up, when circumstances look hopeless, when everyone advises retreat. Building this foundation of belief requires vigilant control over the thoughts you allow to dominate your mind, the internal conversation that runs continuously throughout your waking hours. Thoughts are not neutral observers of reality. They shape your emotions, influence your actions, and ultimately determine your results through their cumulative effect on your psychology and behavior. Negative thoughts, thoughts of limitation, fear, and defeat, act like poison in your mental and emotional system, slowly draining your energy, undermining your confidence, sabotaging your efforts, and creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of failure. Positive thoughts, thoughts of possibility, courage, and victory, act like nourishment, strengthening your resolve, enhancing your creativity, maintaining your motivation, and attracting opportunities that align with your expectations. The mind naturally gravitates toward habitual thought patterns established over years, so conscious effort is required to establish empowering mental habits that serve your success rather than undermine it. This means deliberately choosing to focus on solutions rather than problems, on opportunities rather than obstacles, on what you want to create rather than what you fear, on evidence of progress rather than evidence of failure. One powerful technique for building unshakable self-belief involves the practice of affirmation, repeatedly declaring your goals and desired qualities with conviction and emotion. When you consistently affirm statements like, "I am capable of achieving my goals," "I am determined and persistent," "I will succeed no matter what obstacles I face," "I am worthy of the success I desire," these statements gradually override the negative programming accumulated over years of self-doubt and criticism from others. At first, these affirmations might feel hollow or untrue. Your mind might immediately produce counter-arguments listing all the reasons why these statements aren't accurate. But persistent repetition plants seeds in your subconscious mind that eventually sprout into genuine belief. The subconscious mind, which drives most of your automatic behaviors and emotional responses, doesn't distinguish between real and imagined experiences. It simply accepts what you feed it repeatedly with emotion and conviction. By consciously feeding it empowering messages, you reprogram your internal operating system, replacing doubt with confidence, fear with courage, resignation with determination, and limitation with possibility. Equally important is the practice of visualization, mentally rehearsing your success with vivid detail and emotional involvement. Athletes have used this technique for decades with remarkable results, mentally practicing their performance before competition, seeing themselves executing perfectly, feeling the emotions of victory, experiencing success in their imagination before manifesting it in reality. This mental rehearsal actually creates neural pathways in the brain similar to those created by physical practice, making the visualized action more likely to occur when you take actual action. When you regularly visualize yourself pushing through obstacles, achieving your goals, and living your ideal life, you prepare your mind and body to recognize and seize opportunities that align with your vision. This isn't magical thinking or wishful fantasy. It's practical psychology grounded in neuroscience, training your reticular activating system to notice resources and possibilities that were always present but previously filtered out because they didn't match your self-concept or expectations. The second essential element involves developing an insatiable appetite for knowledge and continuous self-improvement, recognizing that education is not something that ends with formal schooling but rather a lifelong journey. Success rarely comes from what you already know. It comes from your willingness to learn what you need to know, to acquire new skills, to expand your understanding, to challenge your assumptions, to grow beyond your current limitations. The most successful individuals throughout history have been voracious learners, constantly reading, studying, observing, questioning, experimenting, and seeking wisdom from every available source. They understood that ignorance represents the greatest limitation while knowledge provides the tools to overcome virtually any obstacle, that what you don't know costs you far more than what you do know can earn you, that investing in your own development produces the highest returns of any investment you can make. This commitment to learning extends beyond formal education, which, while valuable, represents only one path to knowledge and often a narrow one at that. The true education that transforms lives comes from a personal commitment to growth, from reading books that challenge and expand your thinking, from studying the lives of successful people in your field, from learning from both your successes and your failures, from seeking mentorship from those ahead of you on the path, from experimenting and observing results. Books serve as mentors accessible to anyone regardless of circumstances, economic status, or geographic location. For the price of a few dollars or the effort to visit a library, you can access the accumulated wisdom of humanity's greatest minds, people who have spent decades mastering subjects you want to understand, individuals who have traveled paths you're just beginning, thinkers who have wrestled with questions you're confronting. You can learn from people who have already traveled the path you're on, who have faced similar challenges and discovered solutions, who have made mistakes you can avoid, who have developed strategies you can adapt. Reading transforms you gradually and profoundly, elevating your thinking, expanding your vocabulary, introducing you to new ideas and possibilities, challenging assumptions you didn't know you held, inspiring you with examples of what's possible. The person who commits to reading just 30 minutes daily will complete dozens of books yearly, accumulating knowledge that sets them dramatically apart from their peers. This habit alone can dramatically alter your trajectory, providing insights that save years of trial and error, introducing strategies that accelerate your progress, offering encouragement and inspiration during difficult times when you need it most. But knowledge alone isn't enough. It's necessary but insufficient for success. Knowledge must be applied, tested, refined through action in the real world. Many people accumulate vast amounts of information without corresponding transformation because they fail to implement what they learn. They remain perpetual students who never become practitioners, collectors of information who never become creators of results. The gap between knowing and doing separates those who achieve from those who merely wish, those who transform their lives from those who merely fantasize about transformation. Application requires discipline, the willingness to practice new skills even when they feel uncomfortable and awkward, to experiment with new approaches even when they might fail and embarrass you, to persist in implementation even when immediate results aren't apparent and you're tempted to conclude it's not working. Each piece of knowledge applied, even imperfectly, moves you forward and teaches you lessons unavailable through study alone, while knowledge merely stored in your mind remains potential unrealized, seeds never planted, tools never used. The third essential element centers on the quality of persistence, the ability to continue when others quit, to maintain effort when results aren't appearing, to hold your vision when circumstances suggest its impossibility. Most failures occur not because goals were impossible or people lacked necessary abilities, but because people gave up too soon, abandoned their dreams just before breakthrough, quit when success was closer than they realized. If you examine any significant achievement in any field, you'll find a story of persistence behind it, of continuing despite setbacks that would have stopped most people, of refusing to accept defeat when defeat seemed inevitable, of finding one more way to try when previous approaches failed. The gold miner who stops digging 3 feet from a major vein fails not because gold wasn't there, not because he lacked mining skill, but because he quit before reaching the reward that would have justified all his effort. The entrepreneur who closes her business just before the breakthrough success arrives fails not because success was impossible or her product was flawed, but because she couldn't endure the valley just a bit longer, couldn't maintain faith through one more difficult season. Persistence isn't about blind stubbornness that refuses to adjust strategy when evidence suggests change is needed. It's about maintaining unwavering commitment to your goal while remaining flexible in your methods, adaptable in your approach, willing to learn and adjust while never abandoning the destination. Understanding the true nature of setbacks transforms how you respond to them and dramatically increases your likelihood of ultimate success. Setbacks are not signs of failure or evidence that you should quit. They're simply feedback, information about what doesn't work, opportunities to adjust your approach, temporary obstacles on a path that still leads to your goal. Thomas Edison's 10,000 unsuccessful attempts to create the light bulb weren't failures. They were experiments that systematically eliminated approaches that didn't work, bringing him progressively closer to the solution that eventually revolutionized the world. Every successful person has faced rejection, failure, and disappointment, often repeatedly and publicly. What distinguishes them from those who remain unsuccessful is not that they avoided failure, but how they interpreted failure and responded to it. Where others see defeat and give up, they see lessons and adjust their approach. Where others conclude they can't succeed and abandon their dreams, they conclude they haven't found the right approach yet and keep experimenting. Where others take failure personally as evidence of inadequacy, they view it objectively as information to inform their next attempt. Developing persistence requires building mental and emotional resilience, the capacity to absorb setbacks without being derailed, to experience disappointment without being defeated, to face obstacles without being discouraged. This resilience grows through deliberate practice, by intentionally putting yourself in challenging situations where failure is possible, by pushing beyond your comfort zone regularly, by refusing to retreat when difficulties arise, by proving to yourself repeatedly that you can handle more than you think. Each time you face a challenge and persist despite difficulty, you strengthen your resilience, building mental and emotional muscle that makes future challenges easier to handle. Think of it like building physical muscle through progressive resistance training. Stress followed by recovery creates growth, adaptation, and increased capacity. Similarly, mental and emotional stress, when processed constructively rather than avoided, builds psychological strength that serves you throughout life, making you increasingly unshakable as challenges that would have devastated you earlier become manageable obstacles you navigate with confidence. One powerful strategy for maintaining persistence involves reframing setbacks as temporary and specific rather than permanent and pervasive, a cognitive technique that prevents isolated failures from contaminating your entire self-concept. When something doesn't work out as you hoped, resist the temptation to conclude, "I'm a failure," or "nothing ever works for me," or "I'm not cut out for this." These global, permanent interpretations poison your motivation and make giving up seem logical. Instead, recognize, "This approach didn't work," or "This situation didn't turn out as I hoped," or "I need to develop additional skills in this area." This subtle linguistic shift prevents a single setback from becoming an identity-defining failure and maintains your belief in future success. It keeps setbacks in proper perspective, acknowledging them honestly without being defined by them, learning from them without being limited by them. The fourth essential element addresses the critical importance of character and integrity, recognizing that lasting success that brings genuine satisfaction and stands the test of time, must be built on a foundation of strong character. Shortcuts, ethical compromises, and integrity violations might produce temporary gains, might allow you to advance faster in the short term, but they inevitably lead to collapse, either external through discovered deception or internal through loss of self-respect, peace of mind, and genuine relationships. The person who pushes to the front through manipulation, dishonesty, exploitation of others, or violation of ethical principles ultimately finds their victory hollow and unsustainable, their achievement tainted and their reputation destroyed. True success, success that brings lasting peace and fulfillment rather than anxiety and emptiness, requires that your methods align with your values, that your advancement doesn't come at the expense of others' well-being, that you can look at yourself in the mirror with genuine pride rather than shame you're trying to hide from yourself. Character development involves cultivating essential virtues like honesty, courage, kindness, responsibility, diligence, humility, and integrity in all dealings. These aren't abstract ideals disconnected from practical success. They're fundamental qualities that determine how you navigate challenges, interact with others, make decisions under pressure, and build the reputation that either opens or closes doors throughout your life. Your reputation, what others believe about your character based on consistent patterns they've observed, opens or closes doors throughout your life, attracts or repels opportunities, partnerships, and support. A reputation for integrity, for keeping your word, for treating people fairly, for doing quality work, attracts opportunities and creates a network of supporters who want to help you succeed. A reputation for dishonesty, cutting corners, or treating people poorly, even if partially undeserved, creates obstacles and isolation, causing people to avoid working with you regardless of your talents. Building a strong reputation requires consistent demonstration of good character over extended periods, keeping your word even when inconvenient or costly, treating others well even when no one's watching and you could get away with less, doing quality work even when shortcuts are available and no one would know the difference. Integrity means alignment between your words and actions, between your public persona and private behavior, between your stated values and your actual choices when tested. This alignment creates internal peace because you're not maintaining exhausting false appearances, external trust because people experience consistency from you, and sustained success because you're building on a solid foundation. When you consistently act with integrity, you eliminate the mental burden of maintaining false appearances, the cognitive load of remembering what lies you've told to whom, the anxiety of potential exposure, the shame of knowing you've compromised your principles for temporary advantage. This liberation of mental and emotional energy allows you to focus fully on your goals and relationships rather than managing deception, protecting your image, or rationalizing behavior you know was wrong. The fifth essential element involves developing the ability to focus intensely on your most important priorities, to concentrate your limited time and energy on activities that truly matter. In a world filled with distractions, entertainment constantly demanding attention, urgent but unimportant tasks, and competing demands from every direction, the capacity to concentrate your energy on what matters most becomes a superpower that distinguishes high achievers from the busy but unproductive majority. Diffused effort produces diffused results. Scattered attention creates scattered outcomes, while concentrated effort produces breakthrough results that seem miraculous to those who don't understand focused intensity. Consider sunlight passing through a magnifying glass. Dispersed across a wide area, it provides gentle warmth insufficient to cause any significant change. But focused to a single point, it can start a fire, demonstrating the transformative power of concentration. Similarly, your talents and efforts, when scattered across too many pursuits, too many goals, too many activities, produce modest results that don't match your potential. But when concentrated on a clear target with laser focus, they produce remarkable outcomes that surprise even you. This focus requires ruthless prioritization, the willingness to say no to good opportunities in order to say yes to great ones, to eliminate activities that don't serve your primary goals no matter how enjoyable or comfortable they've become, to resist the constant pull toward distraction and diffusion. Every yes to something unimportant or merely urgent is a no to something truly important. Every minute spent on trivial pursuits is a minute not invested in your most significant goals. Every distraction entertained is focus stolen from what matters most. Time is the ultimate non-renewable resource. Once spent, it's gone forever. You can never reclaim it or buy it back regardless of your wealth. Successful people treat their time as precious, more valuable than money, because money can be earned again, but time once gone is gone forever. They carefully allocate time to activities that directly advance their most important objectives, protect their time from the encroachment of others' priorities, and refuse to fritter away their most valuable resource on trivial entertainment or low-value activities. Developing this focus involves identifying your top priorities with absolute clarity, getting specific about what matters most to you right now in this season of your life. What are the 3 to 5 goals that matter most to you right now? What activities directly advance these goals in measurable ways? What activities merely create the illusion of productivity while actually consuming valuable time and energy without producing meaningful progress? These questions, honestly answered with brutal self-assessment, reveal where to direct your focus and what to eliminate or minimize. The clarity that emerges from this analysis transforms your effectiveness, allowing you to channel your finite energy toward maximum impact rather than dispersing it across activities that don't really matter in the long run. Concentration also requires creating an environment that supports focus rather than undermines it, recognizing that willpower alone isn't sufficient when surrounded by constant distractions. This means establishing routines and rituals that prepare your mind for deep work, eliminating distractions during your most productive hours by turning off notifications and removing temptations, protecting your peak energy times for your most important and challenging tasks. It means recognizing that willpower is a limited resource that depletes throughout the day like a battery, so your most challenging and important work should occur when your mental energy is highest, typically early in the day for most people before the demands and decisions of the day have drained your capacity. The sixth essential element centers on the power of habit and the importance of daily disciplines, recognizing that extraordinary results emerge from ordinary actions repeated consistently over time. Success is rarely the result of dramatic actions or heroic efforts made occasionally. More often it emerges from small actions repeated consistently over extended periods. The compound effect of daily disciplines creating extraordinary results that seem miraculous to outside observers but are simply the inevitable outcome of persistent effort. Reading 30 minutes daily might seem insignificant on any given day, a drop in the bucket that hardly seems worth the effort. But maintained over a year it results in dozens of books read and substantial knowledge gained that transforms your thinking and capabilities. Saving a small percentage of each paycheck might seem trivial weekly, hardly worth the sacrifice of current pleasures, but maintained over years with compound growth it builds significant wealth that provides security and freedom. Exercising 20 minutes daily might produce barely noticeable results initially, certainly nothing impressive to show others, but maintained over months it transforms your health, fitness, energy levels, and longevity in ways that dramatically impact your quality of life and capacity to pursue your goals. The key is establishing habits that align with your goals and values, then maintaining them with consistency until they become automatic, requiring minimal willpower to sustain. Habits are behavioral shortcuts, actions that become automatic through repetition, requiring minimal conscious thought or decision-making once established. This automation is crucial because willpower is limited and unreliable, depleting throughout the day and varying based on factors like stress, fatigue, hunger, and mood. Relying on motivation and willpower for important actions sets you up for inconsistency and failure because motivation fluctuates unpredictably and willpower runs out when you need it most. Converting important actions into habits removes them from the unreliable realm of willpower and motivation, placing them in the reliable realm of automaticity where they occur. almost effortlessly regardless of how you feel. Establishing new habits requires understanding the habit loop that governs all habitual behavior. Cue, routine, reward. The cue triggers the habit, serving as a reminder or signal that initiates the behavior. The routine is the behavior itself, the action you want to make automatic. The reward reinforces the habit, providing satisfaction that makes your brain want to repeat the loop. By consciously designing each element, you can install empowering habits that serve your goals and gradually transform your life through their cumulative effect. For example, if you want to establish a daily reading habit, you might place a book on your pillow each morning as a cue that you'll encounter before bed. Read for 30 minutes as the routine, and enjoy a favorite beverage during reading as the reward that makes the experience pleasant and reinforces the behavior. After sufficient repetitions, typically 21 to 66 days depending on the complexity of the habit, the behavior becomes automatic, requiring little conscious effort to maintain, freeing your willpower for other challenges. Equally important is identifying and eliminating habits that undermine your success, the destructive patterns that sabotage your progress and drain your resources. Everyone has developed habits, often unconsciously over years, that don't serve them well, whether it's excessive social media use that consumes hours daily without providing real value, unhealthy eating patterns that undermine your energy and health, procrastination tendencies that delay important work until deadline pressure forces poor quality rushed efforts, or negative self-talk that undermines confidence and motivation. These habits persist not because they're beneficial but because they're comfortable and familiar, established patterns your brain defaults to without conscious choice. Breaking them requires awareness to recognize the habit and its triggers, intentionality to decide to change despite discomfort, and replacement strategies because simply trying to stop a habit rarely works. Habits leave a void that your brain wants to fill, so more effective than elimination is replacement, substituting the unwanted habit with a better one that satisfies the same underlying need in a healthier way. The seventh essential element addresses the importance of taking action despite fear and uncertainty, recognizing that progress requires entering the unknown where comfort and certainty don't exist. Progress requires attempting things you've never done, entering situations where outcomes are uncertain, risking failure, embarrassment, and loss. This naturally triggers fear, an ancient protective mechanism designed to keep you safe from genuine dangers but which often keeps you stuck in limiting situations far from any real danger. Fear whispers reasons why you should wait until conditions are better, why you're not ready yet, why you need more preparation, why you might fail and embarrass yourself, why staying comfortable is the wise choice. These whispers, if heeded consistently, prevent the action necessary for success, keeping you perpetually preparing but never performing, forever planning but never executing, always intending but never achieving. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in the presence of fear. Every person who has achieved something significant has felt fear and acted anyway, has felt doubt and proceeded nonetheless, has felt inadequate and started despite it, has been terrified and done it anyway. Overcoming fear begins with recognizing that it's often wildly disproportionate to actual danger, that your emotional response far exceeds the realistic threat. The fear of public speaking, of starting a business, of pursuing a dream, of asking for what you want, triggers emotional and physiological responses similar to life-threatening danger. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your mind imagines catastrophe, yet the actual risk is typically limited to embarrassment or temporary setback, not death or destruction. Putting fear in proper perspective by honestly assessing realistic worst-case scenarios reduces its power. allowing reason to guide decisions rather than primitive emotion. Asking yourself, what's the worst that could realistically happen? And honestly answering often reveals that the imagined catastrophe is both unlikely and survivable even if it occurred, that you could handle the outcome and recover. Another powerful strategy involves breaking intimidating goals into smaller, less frightening steps that don't trigger overwhelming fear. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, and that single step is rarely frightening even when the entire journey seems terrifying. If starting a business feels overwhelming, triggering paralysis and endless preparation, focus on just the first tiny action, perhaps researching business structures or drafting a simple one-page business plan, something manageable that doesn't trigger fight or flight responses. If writing a book feels impossible, an overwhelming task you're sure you can't complete, focus on writing just a single page today, something achievable that builds confidence and momentum. These small actions reduce fear by reducing the perceived challenge, making the impossible seem possible by breaking it into obvious next steps, and they create momentum that makes subsequent actions easier as confidence builds and fear diminishes. The eighth essential element involves cultivating relationships with people who inspire and challenge you to grow, recognizing that you become like the people you spend time with. The people you spend significant time with profoundly influence your beliefs, attitudes, behaviors, and ultimately your results through subtle but powerful social influence. Spend time with complainers and you'll find yourself complaining more, adopting their victim mentality and negative worldview. Spend time with cynics and you'll become more cynical, doubting possibilities and criticizing efforts. Spend time with people resigned to mediocrity who have abandoned their dreams, and you'll find your own ambitions shrinking, your standards lowering, your expectations diminishing to match theirs. Conversely, spend time with optimistic, ambitious, growth-oriented people who are pushing to the front in their own lives, and you'll find yourself elevated by their example, inspired to reach higher, challenged to become more, encouraged to persist when you're tempted to quit. This isn't about abandoning existing relationships with people you care about. It's about intentionally cultivating relationships that support who you want to become rather than reinforcing who you've been. Adding relationships that pull you toward your potential rather than holding you at your current level. Seek out mentors, people who have achieved what you aspire to achieve, who have traveled the path you're beginning, who can guide you around pitfalls they encountered, who can share hard-won wisdom that saves you years of struggle. Mentorship accelerates growth dramatically, allowing you to learn from others' experiences and mistakes rather than exclusively from your own, benefiting from their perspective and insights, receiving encouragement from someone who understands your challenges. The right mentor can save you years of struggle by pointing out what works and what doesn't based on their experience, by providing encouragement during difficult times when you're doubting yourself and need someone who believes in you, by holding you accountable to your own stated goals when you're tempted to slack off or give up, by opening doors through their network and reputation. Finding mentors requires humility to admit you don't have all the answers and need guidance, courage to approach accomplished people who might say no or be too busy, and persistence because the best mentors are often busy and require multiple attempts to connect. But the payoff in accelerated progress, avoided mistakes, and expanded opportunities makes the effort worthwhile many times over. Similarly, cultivate peer relationships with people on similar journeys, pursuing their own ambitious goals with determination and persistence. These relationships provide mutual support, accountability, and encouragement that makes the journey more sustainable and enjoyable. When you're struggling and doubting whether you should continue, your peers remind you why you started and encourage you to persist through the difficult season. When you're succeeding and tempted toward complacency or arrogance, they celebrate authentically while inspiring you to reach even higher. When you're confused about your next step or facing a decision, they offer perspective and ideas from their own experiences and understanding. The isolation of pursuing significant goals alone makes success harder and the journey grimmer, while the camaraderie of pursuing goals with others who understand your commitment makes the journey more enjoyable, sustainable, and ultimately more successful. The ninth essential element centers on developing resilience in the face of criticism and opposition, recognizing that anyone who attempts something significant will face both. Anyone who attempts something above average, who pursues ambitious goals, who dares to push to the front, will inevitably face criticism, doubt, and opposition, sometimes from strangers but often from those closest to them, including family and friends. Well-meaning family and friends might discourage your dreams, not from malice or desire to hurt you, but from their own fears and limitations projected onto you. They genuinely believe they're protecting you from disappointment and failure, warning you of risks and difficulties, encouraging you towards safer, more conventional paths. But in protecting you from potential disappointment, they also protect you from potential achievement. They project their own doubts, regrets, and disappointments onto you, warning you against pursuing dreams they never had courage to pursue themselves. While their concerns might come from genuine care and desire for your well-being, accepting their limitations as your own ensures you remain stuck at their level, achieving no more than they achieved, living with similar regrets about roads not taken. Handling criticism effectively requires discernment, the wisdom to distinguish constructive feedback that helps you improve from discouragement masquerading as concern. Constructive criticism identifies specific problems with solutions or suggestions, comes from people with relevant expertise and track record of success in your field, and is offered with genuine desire for your improvement and success. This criticism, while potentially uncomfortable and even painful, deserves serious consideration because it might reveal blind spots, weaknesses you're unaware of, or approaches you haven't considered. Destructive criticism, on the other hand, offers vague discouragement without specific actionable feedback, focuses on your limitations or inadequacy rather than the path forward, and typically comes from people with no relevant experience, no track record of achievement in your area, and no skin in the game. This criticism deserves polite acknowledgement for courtesy but should not influence your decisions or dampen your determination. Developing emotional resilience to criticism requires remembering that critics rarely have more wisdom, ability, or courage than you. They simply have opinions which are abundant and cheap. Opinions are everywhere, offered freely by everyone regardless of qualification, often worth exactly what you pay for them, which is nothing. The person who has never attempted what you're attempting has no basis for declaring it impossible or warning you of certain failure. The person who gave up on their own dreams has no authority to tell you to give up on yours. Their surrender doesn't predict your outcome. The person whose life hasn't demonstrated the results you want shouldn't be guiding your decisions or shaping your path. This isn't about arrogance or dismissing all feedback. It's about discernment, about choosing whose input you allow to influence your path based on their track record and relevant experience rather than accepting input from anyone who offers it. The 10th essential element involves the practice of gratitude and maintaining a positive mental attitude despite challenges, recognizing that success is primarily internal before it becomes external. Success begins with a mindset that sees possibilities rather than limitations, opportunities rather than obstacles, reasons to hope rather than reasons to despair, evidence that you can succeed rather than evidence you'll fail. Two people can face identical circumstances, experience the same events, encounter the same obstacles, yet have completely different experiences and outcomes based solely on their mental attitude and interpretation. One sees problems everywhere, feels overwhelmed and defeated, interprets setbacks as confirmation of inadequacy, and gives up. The other sees challenges as opportunities to grow and demonstrate capability, feels energized and determined, interprets setbacks as temporary obstacles providing valuable lessons, and persists. The circumstances are identical, only the attitude differs, yet that difference produces completely different emotional experiences, actions, and results. Cultivating gratitude provides a powerful antidote to negativity, complaint, and victim mentality that poison motivation and relationships. When you regularly acknowledge what you're grateful for, deliberately noticing and appreciating positive elements of your life regardless of challenges, you train your mind to notice positives that are always present but often overlooked in favor of problems. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you have, from what's wrong to what's right, from problems to blessings, from complaints to appreciation. This shift doesn't ignore real difficulties or pretend problems don't exist. It simply maintains perspective, recognizing that even in challenging circumstances, significant elements worthy of appreciation exist. This practice literally rewires your brain over time through neuroplasticity, strengthening neural pathways associated with positive emotions and constructive thinking while weakening pathways associated with negative emotions and destructive thinking patterns. The more you practice gratitude, the more naturally your mind gravitates toward appreciation rather than complaint, toward possibility rather than limitation, toward hope rather than despair. A positive mental attitude doesn't mean naive optimism that ignores reality, refuses to acknowledge problems, or pretends everything is perfect when it isn't. It means interpreting reality in ways that empower rather than defeat you, focusing on what you can control rather than obsessing about what you can't, looking for lessons and opportunities in difficulties rather than just seeing victimization and unfairness, choosing perspectives that maintain your motivation and forward movement rather than perspectives that justify quitting. It means maintaining faith in positive outcomes even when current evidence suggests otherwise, believing that persistence and proper action will eventually produce desired results even when immediate feedback is discouraging. This attitude acts like a magnet through your energy and expectations, attracting people, opportunities, and resources that align with your positive vision while repelling the negativity that could derail your progress. The 11th essential element addresses the importance of physical vitality and taking excellent care of your body, recognizing the intimate connection between physical and mental performance. Your mind and body are intimately connected in ways that profoundly affect each other, with each dimension of your being influencing the others constantly. Physical exhaustion undermines mental performance dramatically, making it harder to concentrate, think clearly, solve problems creatively, and maintain emotional equilibrium when stressed. Chronic poor health drains energy that could be directed toward your goals, creates constant stress and anxiety about your well-being, reduces your productivity and effectiveness, and shortens your productive lifespan, reducing the time available to achieve your ambitions. Conversely, robust physical health enhances mental performance in measurable ways, provides abundant energy for pursuing your goals with intensity, improves mood and emotional resilience through biochemical processes, and extends the healthy years available to build your legacy and achieve your vision. Maintaining physical vitality requires attention to basic fundamentals that everyone knows but many ignore to their detriment: adequate sleep, regular exercise, and proper nutrition. Sleep is not optional or negotiable despite how people treat it. It's absolutely essential for physical recovery from the day's stresses, mental performance including memory consolidation and learning, and emotional regulation that allows you to handle stress constructively. Chronic sleep deprivation, which affects millions in our always-on culture that treats sleep as wasted time, significantly impairs judgment and decision-making, reduces productivity despite more waking hours, weakens immunity making you more susceptible to illness, accelerates aging, contributes to weight gain and metabolic problems, and degrades emotional regulation making you irritable and reactive. Prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep nightly, which varies somewhat by individual but is the range needed by most adults, is one of the highest return investments you can make in your success and well-being. This might require saying no to late-night entertainment and social media that steal sleep hours, establishing a consistent sleep schedule even on weekends that stabilizes your circadian rhythm, or creating a bedroom environment conducive to rest by making it dark, quiet, and cool, but the payoff in enhanced performance, better health, and improved mood justifies whatever sacrifice is required. Exercise provides benefits far beyond physical fitness and appearance, though those benefits are significant. Regular physical activity reduces stress by metabolizing stress hormones that accumulate during demanding days, elevates mood through release of endorphins and other neurochemicals, enhances cognitive function including memory and creativity, increases energy levels paradoxically despite expending energy during exercise, improves sleep quality making the sleep you get more restorative, strengthens immunity, and reduces risk of chronic diseases that could derail your goals. It doesn't require hours at the gym or extreme intensity that leaves you exhausted. Moderate activity most days of the week, whether walking, cycling, swimming, dancing, or structured exercise, provides substantial benefits. The key is consistency rather than occasional intensity, establishing a sustainable routine that becomes part of your lifestyle rather than a temporary burst of activity followed by abandonment when motivation wanes. Nutrition similarly affects your performance and well-being in profound ways that most people underestimate. Your body and brain function on the fuel you provide through food, with quality fuel producing optimal performance and poor fuel producing suboptimal results, much like a high-performance car runs best on premium fuel. While nutritional science can seem complex and contradictory with competing theories and recommendations, certain principles are universally accepted by serious researchers. Emphasize whole, unprocessed foods that humans evolved eating, particularly vegetables and fruits that provide essential nutrients and fiber. Moderate amounts of quality protein necessary for repair and maintenance, healthy fats that support brain function and hormone production, adequate hydration that supports all bodily functions, and minimal consumption of processed foods high in added sugar and unhealthy fats that contribute to inflammation and disease. These basics, consistently applied over time, provide the nutritional foundation for peak performance, stable energy, healthy body composition, and reduced disease risk. The 12th essential element centers on the practice of service and contributing value to others, recognizing a profound paradox at the heart of achievement. Paradoxically, the fastest path to success involves focusing not primarily on what you can get, but on what you can give, not on being served but on serving. Success, particularly financial success but really all forms of meaningful success, comes fundamentally from solving problems and providing value to others. The more people you serve and the more value you provide to each person, the greater your success and rewards become as a natural consequence. This principle operates universally across all fields and endeavors, from business to the arts to relationships to any area of human activity. Those who achieve the highest levels of success, the ones who reach the very top of their fields, have typically found ways to serve larger numbers of people or provide exceptional value to those they serve, creating impact that justifies extraordinary rewards. Adopting a service mindset transforms how you approach your work, relationships, and goals in powerful ways. Instead of asking, "What can I get from this situation?" you ask, "What can I give?" Instead of focusing primarily on your compensation and rewards, you focus on your contribution and the value you create. Instead of worrying about whether you're getting your fair share, you concentrate on creating exceptional value that makes you indispensable. This shift might seem risky, as though you'll be taken advantage of or left behind while others who focus on taking advance past you, but the opposite proves true consistently. People and organizations that provide exceptional value, that genuinely solve problems, that exceed expectations, are never overlooked for long despite temporary injustices. They become indispensable and are rewarded accordingly, while those focused primarily on taking remain mediocre and struggle. This principle applies to employment, where focusing on contributing maximum value rather than doing minimum required work distinguishes you dramatically from peers and leads to advancement and opportunity. The employee who asks, "How can I make my boss's job easier?" and "How can I contribute more value to the organization?" rather than "What's the minimum I can do without getting fired?" stands out immediately and advances while others remain stuck. It applies to business, where companies that genuinely solve customer problems and exceed expectations build fierce loyalty and sustainable success, while those focused primarily on extracting maximum profit struggle with competition and reputation problems. It applies to relationships, where those who focus on being a good friend, spouse, or parent have good relationships, while those focused on what they can get from others find themselves isolated and unsupported. The principle is universal. Focusing on giving rather than getting paradoxically results in receiving more than you would by focusing on receiving. The 13th essential element involves the quality of patience combined with urgency, balancing two seemingly contradictory virtues. This might seem paradoxical. How can you be both patient and urgent simultaneously? The resolution lies in recognizing that significant achievements require substantial time to manifest while also understanding that time wasted is gone forever and compounds into years lost. You must be patient with the process and timeline, recognizing that building anything substantial requires sustained effort over months or years, not days or weeks. That meaningful achievement is a marathon, not a sprint. Expecting overnight success or immediate results sets you up for disappointment and premature abandonment when reality doesn't match unrealistic expectations. Most overnight successes that seem to come from nowhere actually involve years of preparation, learning, and effort that the public never sees. They're overnight to observers who only notice after breakthrough success, but years or decades in the making for the achiever who understands the reality behind the appearance. This patience prevents the discouragement and abandonment that comes from unrealistic expectations about timelines and progress. When you understand that success is indeed a marathon requiring sustained effort, that setbacks and plateaus are normal parts of any achievement journey, not signs of failure, that visible results often lag significantly behind consistent effort like a delayed harvest after planting, you can maintain motivation through the inevitable difficult periods that stop others. You can persist when others quit because their unrealistic timeline wasn't met and they interpreted normal delays as failure. You can continue when progress seems imperceptible because you understand that compound growth, whether in skills, relationships, or financial investments, eventually creates dramatic results even though individual daily progress seems insignificant and hardly worth the effort. However, this patience with the process and timeline must be balanced with urgency in action and starting immediately. While results take time to manifest, every day matters tremendously. Every action or inaction compounds over time into dramatically different destinations. Starting tomorrow instead of today means arriving at your goal one day later, which might not seem significant, except that tomorrow often becomes next week when tomorrow arrives and you're still not quite ready. Next week becomes next month when circumstances aren't quite right. Next month becomes next year when you're waiting for better timing. Next year becomes never as delay becomes permanent and dreams die from perpetual postponement. Procrastination, the thief of time and dreams that has destroyed more potential than active opposition ever could, must be fought with urgency, with recognition that the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is right now, this moment. Conditions will never be perfect. All the information will never be available. You'll never feel completely ready or qualified. So you might as well begin immediately with whatever you have and learn through doing. This combination, patience with the process and urgency in action, creates powerful momentum toward your goals. You're simultaneously relaxed about the timeline and ultimate arrival, which reduces stress and allows sustained persistence over years, and aggressive about daily action and immediate starting, which ensures steady progress and compounds into extraordinary results. You don't panic when results don't appear immediately because you're patient with the process and understand realistic timelines. But you also don't delay starting or taking action because you're urgent about getting moving and you know today matters. You maintain perspective that success takes time while also maintaining intensity that maximizes the time you have. The 14th essential element addresses the importance of flexibility and the willingness to adjust your approach when circumstances change or your current strategy isn't producing desired results. Persistence in purpose is essential, but stubborn adherence to a failing strategy while refusing to adjust is foolish, not admirable. The key distinction that separates wisdom from stubbornness is maintaining unwavering commitment to your goal and destination while remaining completely flexible in your methods and approach. Your destination might be fixed, your vision and ultimate objective might remain constant, but your route should adapt continuously to terrain, weather, obstacles encountered along the way, and new information that reveals better paths. Many people fail to achieve goals that were entirely possible, not because their goal was impossible or they lacked necessary abilities, but because they refused to adjust their approach when it clearly wasn't working, when evidence overwhelmingly suggested the need for change. They confused persistence in strategy with persistence in purpose, stubbornly continuing with methods that repeatedly produced poor results, doubling down on approaches that weren't working rather than experimenting with alternatives. True wisdom involves regularly evaluating your progress honestly and assessing whether your current approach is working and producing acceptable results. If it is, continue and intensify your efforts knowing you're on a productive path. If it isn't, analyze why with brutal honesty and adjust your approach, trying different methods, seeking advice from those who have succeeded where you're struggling, experimenting with alternatives until you find what works. Markets change constantly, technologies evolve at accelerating pace, circumstances shift in unpredictable ways, and strategies that worked yesterday might not work tomorrow in changed conditions. The capacity to adapt to changing conditions, to learn new skills when old ones become obsolete, to embrace new tools and methods when they prove superior, determines whether you thrive through change or become obsolete and irrelevant. History is littered with individuals and companies that failed not because they weren't good at what they did, not because they lacked talent or dedication, but because what they did became irrelevant due to change and they couldn't or wouldn't adapt to new realities. The buggy whip manufacturer who refused to acknowledge the automobile, the film photography company that dismissed digital technology, the retail giant that ignored e-commerce until too late, all fell not from incompetence but from inflexibility. Conversely, those who achieve sustained success over decades, who remain relevant and successful despite massive changes in their industries and environments, are typically masters of adaptation, constantly evolving their approach while maintaining core values and vision that guide all changes. The 15th essential element involves the practice of celebrating progress and acknowledging achievements, however small they might seem compared to your ultimate goal. The journey to significant goals is inevitably long and often difficult, filled with setbacks and challenges, with the destination seeming impossibly distant for extended periods. Waiting until you reach your ultimate goal to feel satisfied, to celebrate, to acknowledge your progress ensures you spend years or even decades feeling discouraged and deprived, constantly focused on how far you have to go rather than appreciating how far you've come. This unsustainable approach that denies all satisfaction until final arrival often leads to abandonment before reaching the goal, burnout from constant striving without acknowledgement, or achieving the goal only to feel empty because you trained yourself to never feel satisfied. Instead, breaking your journey into milestones and celebrating each milestone achieved makes the process more enjoyable, sustainable over years, and ultimately more likely to result in reaching your destination. Celebration doesn't require extravagance, expensive rewards, or dramatic gestures that consume resources you need for your journey. It simply requires acknowledgement that you've made progress, that you've achieved something worth recognizing, that you're moving in the right direction and making the journey successfully even if slowly. This acknowledgement, even simple internal recognition, releases dopamine, a crucial neurotransmitter associated with pleasure, motivation, and reward, making you more likely to continue the behaviors that produce the success. It creates positive associations with the work required to achieve your goals, making that work more enjoyable and less burdensome, transforming discipline from suffering into satisfaction. It maintains motivation through long periods when the ultimate goal still seems distant and you need encouragement to continue. Moreover, celebrating progress trains you to notice and appreciate success rather than focusing exclusively on what remains undone, a destructive pattern common among achievement-oriented people. Many people who accomplish impressive things fall into the trap of dismissing their accomplishments as insufficient, immediately focusing on the next goal without pausing to acknowledge what they just achieved, never feeling satisfied regardless of achievement, constantly moving the goalposts so that enough is never enough. This pattern creates chronic dissatisfaction that undermines the very success being pursued, making achievement feel empty and pointless since satisfaction remains perpetually out of reach. Learning to acknowledge and appreciate your progress while continuing to strive for more creates a much healthier and more sustainable approach to achievement, allowing you to enjoy the journey while still moving toward ambitious destinations. The 16th essential element centers on understanding and managing energy rather than just time, recognizing that productivity depends more on energy than on hours available. While time management is important and everyone has the same 24 hours daily, energy management proves even more crucial for high performance and sustained achievement. You can have abundant time but accomplish little if your energy is depleted, while you can accomplish remarkable things in limited time if your energy is high and properly directed. Energy comes in 4 forms, each requiring different maintenance. Physical energy from your body's health and vitality, emotional energy from your psychological state, and relationships, mental energy from your cognitive capacity and focus, and spiritual energy from your sense of purpose and meaning. High achievement requires managing all 4 dimensions, ensuring each is maintained and renewed rather than allowing any to become chronically depleted. Physical energy, already discussed in terms of health fundamentals, provides the foundation for all other forms since your body houses your mind and emotions. Emotional energy comes from positive relationships, meaningful work, adequate recovery from stress, and effective processing of difficult emotions rather than suppression. Mental energy, your capacity for focus and cognitive work, is finite and depletes throughout the day, requiring strategic use for your most important and challenging work when it's highest. Spiritual energy, your sense of connection to something larger than yourself and clarity about your purpose, provides the deepest motivation and resilience through difficulties. Managing energy requires understanding that it operates in rhythms, oscillating between expenditure and recovery, stress and rest, with growth occurring during recovery periods, not during stress. Athletes understand this principle, knowing that muscles grow during rest after being stressed, that peak performance requires cycles of intense effort followed by complete recovery. The same principle applies to all forms of energy and performance, yet many people try to maintain constant high intensity without adequate recovery, leading to burnout, declining performance, and eventual breakdown. Building strategic recovery into your schedule, taking real breaks rather than just switching between tasks, managing your daily rhythm to align challenging work with peak energy times, all dramatically improve your sustained performance and achievement. The 17th essential element involves the practice of visualization and mental rehearsal, using your imagination deliberately to program your mind and nervous system for success. Your mind doesn't clearly distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real experiences, particularly when imagination is accompanied by strong emotion and sensory detail. This creates a powerful opportunity to prepare yourself for success, to practice responses to challenging situations, to build confidence before actual performance. Athletes have used mental rehearsal for decades with remarkable results, studies showing that mental practice produces measurable improvements in physical performance, activating similar neural pathways as actual physical practice, though to lesser degree. When you regularly and vividly visualize yourself successfully handling challenging situations, achieving your goals, performing at your best, you create neural patterns that make these outcomes more likely when you take actual action. You prepare your mind to recognize opportunities aligned with your vision, prime your nervous system to respond optimally in the situations you've mentally rehearsed, and build confidence through repeated mental experiences of success. This isn't magical thinking or substitute for real action. It's supplementary practice using your imagination as a training ground, particularly valuable for preparing for high-stakes situations where you have limited opportunities for real practice. Effective visualization requires more than vague daydreaming about success. It requires vivid, detailed, multi-sensory imagination accompanied by genuine emotion, seeing yourself in specific situations from first-person perspective, including sounds, physical sensations, and emotions you'll experience. It requires regular practice, ideally daily, spending 10 to 20 minutes in quiet, focused visualization. And it requires combination with real action, using visualization to supplement and enhance real practice and effort, not as replacement for actual work. The 18th essential element addresses the importance of financial intelligence and managing money wisely, recognizing that financial pressure and instability undermine your ability to pursue meaningful goals. While money isn't the primary measure of success or source of happiness, financial stability provides freedom and reduces stress that otherwise consumes energy and attention. Financial problems create constant anxiety, limit your options, force compromises you wouldn't otherwise make, and distract you from higher purposes. Conversely, financial stability, which doesn't require wealth but does require living within your means and building reserves, provides peace of mind, options, and flexibility, and freedom to pursue meaningful work even if it doesn't immediately pay well. Financial intelligence involves understanding basic principles that create stability and build wealth over time. Spending less than you earn consistently, saving and investing the difference regularly. Avoiding destructive debt, particularly for depreciating assets and consumption. Building emergency reserves that cover several months of expenses. Investing for long-term growth through compound returns. And continuously increasing your earning capacity through skill development and value creation. These principles, applied consistently over years, create financial stability regardless of income level, while violating these principles creates financial stress regardless of how much you earn. Many people earn substantial incomes yet live in financial stress because they spend everything they make or more, never building reserves or investing for the future. Others earn modest incomes yet achieve financial stability by living well below their means, saving consistently, and making wise choices. The difference isn't primarily income but habits and choices regarding money. Developing financial intelligence and discipline provides foundation for pursuing ambitious goals without constant money anxiety, allows you to take calculated risks when opportunities arise, and ultimately provides freedom that money is meant to serve. The 19th essential element involves developing the quality of decisiveness, the ability to make decisions promptly and act on them rather than remaining paralyzed in analysis and consideration. Indecision is a silent dream killer, consuming energy through constant reconsideration, creating stress from unresolved questions, preventing the forward movement that produces results and learning. While important decisions deserve appropriate consideration and gathering of relevant information, most decisions don't warrant the extended deliberation people give them, and no amount of analysis can eliminate all uncertainty or guarantee outcomes. At some point, with imperfect information and uncertain outcomes, you must decide and act, trusting your judgment and knowing you can adjust if the decision proves wrong. Successful people tend to make decisions relatively quickly once they have sufficient information, then work to make their decision right through committed action rather than constantly second-guessing. Less successful people often agonize over decisions, perpetually gathering more information, considering every possible outcome, afraid of making mistakes, remaining stuck in analysis paralysis that prevents any progress. The difference isn't that successful people have better information or more certainty. It's that they're willing to decide with uncertainty, to commit to a course of action, to trust they can handle consequences and adjust if needed. Developing decisiveness requires practicing with small decisions, making them quickly without excessive deliberation, building your confidence in your decision-making ability. It requires understanding that most decisions are reversible or adjustable if they prove wrong, that mistakes are learning opportunities, not catastrophes, that indecision itself is a decision with consequences usually worse than either alternative you're considering. It requires taking action on your decisions immediately when possible, cementing your commitment and preventing reconsideration that wastes energy. The 20th essential element centers on the practice of continuous goal setting and regular evaluation of progress. Goals provide direction that focuses your efforts, motivation that sustains your action, and metrics that allow you to evaluate progress and adjust approach. Without clear goals, you drift wherever circumstances push you, reacting to whatever happens rather than proactively creating outcomes you desire. With clear goals, you have criteria for decisions, focus for your energy, and standards for evaluating whether you're moving in your desired direction. Effective goals are specific rather than vague, measurable rather than subjective, time-bound rather than open-ended, challenging but realistic, and aligned with your values and larger purpose. Get in better shape is too vague to drive action. while exercise 30 minutes 5 times weekly and lose 20 pounds by June 1st provides specificity that allows planning and tracking. Goals should stretch you beyond your current comfort zone, requiring growth and effort, but remain within realistic possibility to maintain motivation rather than discouragement. Beyond setting goals initially, sustained success requires regular review and evaluation, assessing whether you're making adequate progress, whether your approach is working, whether adjustments are needed, whether goals still align with your evolving vision. Monthly reviews provide opportunities to celebrate progress, identify obstacles, adjust strategies, and recommit to your vision. Annual reviews allow bigger picture evaluation and adjustment of your longer-term direction and goals as you grow and circumstances change. As we synthesize all these elements, a comprehensive picture emerges of what pushing to the front truly means and requires. It's not about ruthlessly climbing over others, achieving success at any cost, or working yourself into breakdown. It's about becoming the best version of yourself through continuous growth, about developing your potential through deliberate practice and learning, about contributing maximum value to others through your work and presence, about persisting until you achieve what you set out to accomplish regardless of obstacles encountered. It's available to anyone willing to pay the price in self-discipline, continuous learning, persistent effort, and character development. The beautiful and encouraging truth, proven throughout history in countless lives across all circumstances, is that these principles work reliably. They're not theoretical ideals disconnected from reality. They're proven through innumerable lives across generations. Every person who has risen from poverty to prosperity, from obscurity to influence, from repeated failure to ultimate victory, from limitation to achievement, has applied these principles whether consciously through deliberate study or instinctively through character and determination. And here's the truly exciting part that should fill you with hope. These principles still work today just as powerfully as ever. They're timeless, not dependent on particular economic conditions, historical periods, or circumstances. They worked a century ago, they work today, and they'll work a century from now because they're based on fundamental truths about human psychology, character, and achievement that don't change. Your current circumstances, however challenging or discouraging they might appear, do not determine your destiny or limit your potential. You might have been born into poverty without advantages others enjoy, faced with limited education that makes you feel inadequate, burdened with responsibilities that consume your time and energy, or dealing with setbacks that seem insurmountable and make progress appear impossible. But none of these factors seal your fate or determine your destination. History overflows with inspiring examples of people who faced similar circumstances or far worse, who had every excuse to give up and accept limitation, yet nevertheless achieved extraordinary success that seemed impossible. What they had, what you can develop starting right now, is the determination to push forward regardless of obstacles, the willingness to learn what you need to know through any means available, the courage to act despite fear and uncertainty, the persistence to continue when others quit, and the faith that sustained effort applied intelligently will eventually produce desired results. The path won't be easy, make no mistake about that. No worthwhile achievement ever comes easily, without sacrifice, without difficulty. You will face moments of profound doubt when you question whether your goals are possible, whether you have what it takes, whether the sacrifice is worth the uncertain reward. You will encounter setbacks that make you want to quit and return to the comfort of low expectations. You will face criticism from those who don't understand or support your vision, sometimes from those closest to you whose doubt hurts most. You will experience fatigue when the journey feels too long, frustration when progress is slower than hoped, and fear that whispers maybe you should give up before you're embarrassed by failure. These challenges are not signs that you're on the wrong path or pursuing unrealistic goals. They're actually signs that you're on a path that leads somewhere significant, that you're attempting something meaningful enough to be difficult. But here's what you absolutely must understand and hold on to during difficult times. You're capable of far more than you've demonstrated so far in your life. The potential within you, largely untapped and dormant, vastly exceeds what you've accomplished to date by orders of magnitude. You have strengths you haven't discovered yet, abilities you haven't developed, possibilities you haven't imagined, capacities you haven't tested. The only question, the only thing that will determine whether you achieve a fraction of your potential or make extraordinary use of your gifts, is whether you'll commit to the process of drawing out that potential, whether you'll embrace the discomfort of growth rather than the comfort of stagnation, whether you'll persist through the inevitable challenges rather than retreat to safety, whether you'll push to the front or remain in the back content with less than you could achieve. The choice, and it is fundamentally a choice not determined by circumstances or others, rests entirely with you. No one can make this decision for you, no one else can do the necessary work for you, and no one can persist on your behalf. External circumstances certainly influence your starting point and present specific challenges unique to your situation, but they don't determine your destination or define your limits. That determination comes from within, from your decisions, from your response to circumstances, from your interpretation of setbacks, from your daily actions repeated over time until they compound into transformation. You can allow circumstances to define and limit you, accepting their current constraints as permanent boundaries, or you can use circumstances as raw material for building something remarkable that transforms both your life and your impact. Starting today, right now, this very moment, you can begin applying these principles and initiating your journey toward the front. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need perfect conditions or certainty about outcomes. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need complete confidence or freedom from fear. You simply need to start with whatever you have from wherever you are, taking the first small step in your chosen direction. Choose one area where you want to push to the front, something meaningful that matters to you personally. Clarify your specific goal in that area, making it concrete enough to pursue. Identify your very first action, something you can do today that moves you toward that goal. Then take that action today without delay or excuse. Tomorrow, take the next action, then the next. Continue this process daily, learning as you go through experience, adjusting when necessary based on results, persisting through setbacks that are inevitable, celebrating progress no matter how small, and never giving up regardless of how long it takes or how difficult it becomes. This simple but powerful approach, maintained consistently over months and years despite temptation to quit, will take you places you currently can't imagine, will develop capabilities you don't currently possess, will open doors you don't currently see, will create a life that currently seems like an impossible fantasy. The transformation won't happen overnight, but it will happen if you persist. Small daily actions, seemingly insignificant in isolation, compound over time into remarkable results that appear miraculous to those who don't understand the power of consistency and compound growth. Remember that success, real success that brings genuine and lasting fulfillment rather than empty achievement, isn't ultimately about reaching some final destination where you can finally relax and feel permanently satisfied. It's fundamentally about becoming someone capable of achieving what you currently consider impossible, someone who has systematically developed their God-given potential, someone who has contributed genuine value to others, someone who has overcome challenges that would have defeated their former self, someone who has grown into a person of character and capability. The goal itself isn't ultimately the point, though goals are necessary for direction and motivation. Growth through pursuit of the goal is the real point. Achievement isn't the ultimate reward, though achievement brings satisfaction. Becoming the person capable of achievement is the real reward that no one can take from you. Every challenge you face develops strength you'll need for the next level. Every setback teaches lessons essential for ultimate success. Every moment of doubt overcome builds confidence required for bigger challenges. Every small victory prepares you for larger victories ahead. Every day of persistence makes persistence easier and more natural. The journey itself transforms you, preparing you to handle the success you're building toward, ensuring you have the character and wisdom to manage achievement when it comes. If you found genuine value in this summary, if you feel inspired or encouraged to push to the front in your own life, if these timeless principles resonated with something deep inside you, I would be incredibly grateful if you would take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Audiobook Library for more summaries of life-changing books that can transform your thinking and your life. Your support helps us continue creating content that makes wisdom accessible to everyone. Share this with someone who needs encouragement right now, someone facing challenges who might be ready to quit, someone who might benefit from these timeless principles, someone whose life could be changed by understanding that their current circumstances don't determine their destiny. Together, we can create a community of people committed to pushing forward, achieving more than others think possible, becoming better versions of ourselves, and lifting others as we climb. Your future self, the version of you who persisted and pushed to the front despite obstacles, who developed your potential, who achieved goals that current you thinks might be impossible, is counting on you to start today. That future self is looking back at this moment, at this very decision point, hoping you'll make the choice to begin, to commit, to persist. Don't let that future self down by retreating into comfortable mediocrity. Take the first step now, today, this very hour. Begin the journey with courage despite fear. Commit to seeing it through no matter what obstacles arise, what setbacks occur, what criticism you face, how long it takes. The world genuinely needs what you have to offer, the unique contribution only you can make, but you have to push to the front to offer it, to develop it, to share it. Begin today with whatever you have from wherever you are. Persist tomorrow when motivation fades and discipline must carry you. Continue next week when the initial excitement wears off. Keep going next month when progress seems slow. Persist through next year and the year after that until you've achieved what you set out to accomplish and become who you're meant to be. Your extraordinary life, the one you dream about, the one you're capable of living, is waiting for you to claim it. It won't come to you through luck, wishful thinking, or waiting for perfect conditions. It comes only through deliberate decision to push forward followed by persistent action. Push forward starting now, take the first step today, and continue until you've claimed the life that's waiting for you. Your time is now, your moment is here, your opportunity is before you. Push to the front, and never look back with regret about what might have been if only you tried.